Right, we're from the Open Project in Shetland, and how we're going to do this is a bit like just use slides as a bit of a background and just a bit of a question and answer so that Shannon and Rhiannan can tell you a bit more about the work that we do. I'm going to kick it off with a bit about how we got to the point we're at today. So Open was set up in 2011. It was basically set up to do peer education in Shetland, where we knew there was a gap. We did some research back in the day. We didn't really know what research was. And knew that there was nobody speaking to young people in schools about sexual health and harm reduction and drugs work. And from that, the project grew and grew into doing more workshops in S1s to S4s right across Shetland. And now we have a rolling programme of about 10 workshops that we deliver. So over the years, we got to about 2021, and through COVID, we'd been linked in. We've seen what the Ideas Fund were beginning to put together, and we were really interested in the idea of how could we use peer research to prove the needs of young people and create more work that we could fill that gap. I have to say that our ethos from day one has been that young people lead our organisation. But luckily, we got paired up with 2 professional researchers. We were really lucky. We have a strategic one that's from Shetland, but actually lives in Edinburgh, and she does work for the government. She does work in Shetland with strategic partners. So it was really nice to have someone that knew the landscape that we were trying to get into. And Amy Calder, who some of you'll know, works for Youth Link Scotland. And she's very active in the sort of academic, youth-led, community-led research, and she kind of helped us get the skills in how to do good youth work practice. So we've been really lucky to have 2 researchers work with us in different ways. I better not. And what we're going to do is just kind of give you a flavour of what our research projects have been. And if you want to know more about Open, it's Open Shetland is our website, and we've got all the sort of reports, documents that kind of go along with what we'll talk about today. So I'm going to kick off and ask Shannon, what was it like to be the first peer researcher in Shetland with Open?
So, starting off as a peer researcher at Open, it was a completely new role. This didn't exist yet, and I was lucky enough to start with my friend Akira in this role. And our first project, was the Open Space Project, where we were asking young people what they wanted from a space in Shetland, and if they even needed one. Maybe they felt like what was there was already enough. It wasn't, is what we were told. And from this, we did a whole load of learning as we went through it, but for the purpose of time. We did get some results. Young people throughout the process had told us that what's the point in taking part? And we had that from the adults too, but there was maybe a little bit more buy-in from the adults because it could maybe tick a box. Young folk, we were ticking no box by asking them to chat to us. One of my most, I suppose, biggest wins for myself during this project is one young person turned to me and said, what's the point of telling you what I want from a space? I'm not going to get anything. Anything I tell you isn't going to amount to anything. That young person now volunteers with Open, works with Open, and does loads with us because they could see the power of what we did and what came of it, which was we got a hub from young people, the cafe, the CAF, continued to run for young people, and we just kept shouting loud about young people needing a space, about them not being stigmatised in spaces, and also being able to just get a warmth, get a heat in them, and charge their phone. And I suppose the challenges was what I've already covered there.
Rhiannan.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell everyone about how you got involved in Open through the cafe?
So Akira, who Shannon just spoke about, I met Akira and Shannon in a different charity. I was quite quiet-ish. I didn't really do much, and Akira kept on saying, oh, you should come to this cafe that young people run, like it's led by young people, and it's just really good. And I kept on going, no, I don't do people. But she eventually managed to drag me there. And yeah, I never left. So here we are.
And how did you get involved in peer research?
So with going to the cafe so much, I got to meet more of Open staff. And with the other charity, I met Shannon. And Shannon and Akira got together and spoke a little bit, and they thought that doing peer research and getting more involved with Open would really benefit me. So I started off doing peer research first, and then moved on to peer ed, and still did peer research at the same time, and just went from there.
Shannon, do you want to tell them a wee bit about why you chose to do the alcohol and drugs research?
So we had previous research to back this up. Before I came along, there was the Emotional Wellbeing and Resilience Project, I got that right. And they found out a lot about young people just needing to be held, nurturing spaces, sort of like that. And also the Space Project was pointing towards that stigma, young people feeling judged, young people not feeling welcome. And there was also a perception that young people were using certain substances or drinking alcohol. So we felt like it was important to go out and hear from young people what their perceptions were around this, but not to ask what the adults in the community wanted to find out, which was, what are they taking? What are they taking? We need this for the stats. We wanted to find out why, because that's what's really important. What are the influences that are making these young people feel the need? Because that's not the language I use, don't worry. But while we were doing the project, we found out that young people felt that they needed a sense of belonging and that, no, sorry, I was just pointing it the wrong way. Yeah, could you give me another question?
How did the researchers help you plan and carry out the research?
Yeah. So, in our first project, we did have Amy and Jennifer, who were huge helps, but they helped us figure out our core questions. They also helped us narrow down what we were needing to ask, which was pretty hard with the huge amount of information that we were trying to filter down to get to the heart of what was important. And yeah, they're totally invaluable. Without those researchers making sure that we could, well, without Amy and Jennifer, making sure that everything was ethical and safe, we wouldn't have been able to get that buy-in and trust from others in the community, even though Open already has quite a big amount of buy-in. It was that way that we needed to make sure folk knew that we could be trusted, and that's what they did for us.
Tell them what you found out.
So, we had 4 main, I suppose, ideas for change that came from this work. I will not try and rattle them all off the top of my head, but there was ones about needing adults to role model good behaviour. So many young people told us that, yeah, it's really great telling us that we can't do this, that, and the next, but it's a birthday, everyone's going to the pub. Every activity within Shetland generally has alcohol involved. We often heard about Up Helliah, if any of you guys know that, that's the biggest fire festival, also the biggest piss up in Shetland. And it's true, young people were trying to say, why are we being expected to model different behaviour if you guys aren't? And also, why have we got no opportunities outside of this culture? Why don't you guys have open and honest conversations with us? Why do we feel like there's this barrier coming up whenever we try and chat to you? So that was kind of touching on all the 4 ideas for change.
How did Shift Up come about?
So Shift Up came about because I suppose there's a little bit about connections within communities here. Me and Akira went and presented the findings to folk, and the head of social work had a bit of a connection with me, and she said, look, we can't let what young people's voices and their opinions that they've decided to share be lost. We can't just have this not carry on. So she actioned different community members, change makers we like to call them, but they're people from the NHS, people from the local council, folk that could have influence to come join this group. And we called it the Live Working Group, but we've changed it to Shift Up. And the idea is that young people and adults work together to try and create change. It's been a journey, but we're getting there.
And Rhiannan, do you want to say how you're involved in Shift Up?
Yeah, so about a year and a bit ago, they came forward and they said, like Rhiannan and Shannon, they asked if I wanted to be a part of this group. And I said, well, what is it? What is it? And they were like, it's professionals, young people coming together to make change. So I was like, you know what, yeah, why not? Why not? New challenge, I'll take it on. And at the time there was, 8 professionals and 2 young people, so me and another young person. That other young person's now moved on, gone on to a new chapter. So I'm now chairing it, which is the most daunting thing, but a really good experience to learn and gain new skills from. So.
So just to give a bit of context, we Shift Up as well. It's kind of Jennifer, one of our researchers, is working with us to try and look at how do we create a blueprint of what we're doing, because it is very much about young people and these sort of change-making professionals looking at fast actions of change. You know, we've spent a lot of time looking at the process. It's not about, get young people to sit in a meeting and participate. It's definitely got a change in that sort of, people have been speaking all through the day about that power balance. And it's really key to find the right people with the right want to change the system and not just sit around the table and talk about the same things over and over again. So it's very much, and it's really helpful having Jennifer and them sort of monitor it and sort of like try and capture what is making it different from a normal group of professionals meeting together. And the overall aim is just to bridge the gap. You know, there is a gap. We know that there's, you know, people are making decisions, but they don't even kind of know how they're doing it themselves. So if we can define that, it might be really good. So yeah, Shannon, do you want to tell me why you chose a creative topic?
So the next topic that came along wasn't as heavy-hitting or hard-hitting for those taking part. This was also for the benefit of my young group of peer researchers, which Rhiannan was one of. They all had the core skills, or as much of the core skills I could give you guys by this stage, and we were all a little bit aware that from each project, we went and presented it, the council members, whoever we presented to, said, well, there's already stuff on for young people, what do they want? Why are they wanting anything? So we had to go and find out what they wanted, and then they didn't really care about the answers, but that's by the by. So we did this project so that you guys could do more interactive research, also so that we could try out some new methodologies. We tried rich pictures for this project, and it also gave us the opportunity to no, I don't have anything to say there.
Yeah. Rhiannan, maybe you could say a wee bit more about what was the best bit about being involved in the aspirations, interests and ideas?
So this project definitely had a lot more time as well to be able to develop your skills and gain confidence while doing independent research. So in this project, I learned a lot about like research ethics and just different methods to do research, but interactively. And whilst doing that, we also ourselves were learning through interactive different things. And yeah, I think that covers most of it, yeah.
So from doing all this sort of research, there's been a sort of like peripheral of opportunities that have come to it as well. So do you want to tell them a wee bit about Ryan and the big ideas?
So with being involved in Open as well, I've had so many opportunities to go away to different conferences and go and do different things. So this year, earlier this year, I was at Ryan's conference. I can't remember because it had a name to it, but I can't remember what it is. And it was really good because also going there, we were able to like action different things and look into what other projects we're doing and network. And then after that, I got invited to Big Ideas, which Ryan put on, which was also absolutely amazing. More networking, and we also got to deliver a workshop to some of the young people attending, so we could show what we were doing. And I'm missing one. What am I missing? I just said Big Ideas. I've had many opportunities anyway. Even coming away to things like this, it's absolutely amazing because you get to, like, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not really a people person. So me doing this even is like trying to build my confidence and gain new skills. And yeah, so it's amazing to be able to come and do things like this.
We're probably flying through this a bit because we know we've got so little time, but we're still in the time. So, do you want me to speak a wee bit about the themes? Yep. So what we actually began to realise was from doing different pieces of research, we were coming along with the same sort of themes coming out of it all. And then folks say, oh, that's quite normal. And it's like, oh, is it? And it was, these were the sort of three main themes that we were realising were just coming up over and over again for young people. You know, especially about the community's perception of young people and the stigma that that kind of could hold. The sense of belonging, the feeling like they didn't really have their own place in the community. And that's from everything from having a welcoming space to feeling like they were the ones that were taking all the drugs and alcohol and that they were to fix it. So from that, we kind of went, okay, actually, maybe we need to pause and look at how do we work on these themes. So rather than just going, oh, what's the next topic to look at, then where do we go with this? And it kind of highlighted that there was the need for maybe looking at social action campaigns and giving young people the chance to use the research in their own means of like raising awareness about what their needs were. So we're kind of looking at how do we do that in a positive way, so maybe doing a like sort of positive promotion of young people in the community. I just check what slide we're on? So the sort of 3 key things that we're kind of looking at now to kind of take this forward is research ethics policy. So Amy's kind of looking at how do we train young people to design their own ethical research, and we've been doing that, but actually putting it into policy and practice and sharing that. Also, Amy's going to come up and train all of our staff, and our board is like train the trainer training, so that it's not just people involved in peer research, that actually how can we give everybody in the community these skills. And that'll kind of hopefully help to embed it, because that is our aim, is how do we embed this in our organisation. We've done it with peer education, but how do we make sure that we're teaching young people and the community to make, you know, rights-based evidence decisions. And we're also, probably our ask from today is, and this afternoon will be really good to look at, if we were trying to put a toolkit together, we don't want a toolkit that sits on a shelf, we want a toolkit that everybody could share. And that might be where community knowledge matters, and Lewis and them could take a lead on, is it a website, is it a case of library online, so that we can put things in that we find useful. And if you're wanting to analyse something, you might be like, that would be a really good way to do it. So it's maybe looking at trying to share what we've learned, and as part of the evidence building grant with the Ideas Fund, how do we actually begin to make sure that this is part of our practice and shared in our, more than just open in Shetland, but across the community. Right, we're going to finish in sparkly moments. We've been told to get off. I'll start with mine, will I? I think one of my sparkly moments was a funding one. When we decided to become an independent youth-led charity, oh yeah, thanks. And we were looking at funding, you know, how are we going to do that? Who's going to invest in a management committee of young people who are all under 29 and give us enough money to do this? And Esme Fairburn were really supportive, got really involved, and my sparkly moment was we asked them for 3 years funding for 140,000, and they said, actually, I think we'll give you 4, and gave us 200. You know, so it's people need to invest in the risky work that we're trying to do. So that was my sparkly moment. It was definitely a win-win. Yours next. Can you remember yours?
Yeah. Sparkly. My sparkly moment with Open has definitely been the fact that I've been given a trainee youth worker job, which again has helped me develop my skills, confidence, and it's also that way where it just shows that good things can come out of all the hard work you put in. And yeah, it's the best work team I could be a part of.
Sorry, guys. 2 seconds, thank you. Yes, okay, I do know mine. I knew that I didn't want to just choose one off the top of my head. So, my sparkling moment has been the Eureka moments, and that's what the researchers have given us. So much of peer research, especially at the beginning, but even now I'll get bogged down and I cannot wrap my head around this. How is this youth-led? How is this research? How are we making everything join up together so it makes sense and is right? And then it's happened because Amy or Jennifer has come along and given me the right sum for me to get the answer. And those moments where you get a eureka moment, that is my sparkly moments, because it pulls the momentum forward for the project. The whole research team feels that energy and goes, yeah, we've got something, we can dig our teeth into this. So yeah, those eureka moments, that's the sparkly moments for me.
Thanks, Murray.
You get one question, in fact. I'm going to give you one question from the audience, because has anyone got a reflection, comment?
Microphone. Sorry, very public, having a microphone. It's more of a reflection and a picture in my head, but I have a picture from books I read of Victorian times where you shoved your kids on the street and you saw them, you heard them, they were everywhere. And thinking about what Open is doing, having to justify kids' presence and young people's presence, and that they want part of things and want to be out there. I'm not justifying Victorian times, but I'm saying they were visible and part and around, and maybe not part of things as they should have been, but you knew they were there. And now in Lower, you hear that people object to young people all sitting in a line on a doorstep on the street, on their mobile phones. Very few of them are doing any harm or getting up to stuff. Most of them are just socialising. They're using the public benches in various places. And I think it's also our attitude that has changed somewhat, that has somehow wanted young people removed from the public venue.
All I was going to say is, yeah, we don't have as much young folk out in Shetland, and I really like the point that you've got. And it is nice that our children have rights now, and the UNCRC exists, and our young people can feel safe. But the next step is trying to make sure that they feel like they belong, and they're a part of the community. It's not just about educating them, it's about including them.
So, I've got one question. Has the conversation changed around alcohol and drugs for adults?
I think a lot of them have tried to stop drinking. We presented it to the Shetland Public Protection Committee. They have a development day every year. And you could just see their faces drop when Shannon was telling them, you know, young people think it's your problem, no theirs. Yous are all at it. You know, sorry, this is live.
You tell him.
Oh, but I think the point, you could see the realisation on people's faces, like, everything is, you know, even the hall events, everything has got a bar. You know, it's very hard for the older community too, to, you know, find things to do that don't involve alcohol and drugs. So I think it actually helped bring that conversation for all. So I think that that's the main point of it. I think podcasts is next. I think we need to get folk talking about it more from across the community. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that. Open Shetland, everyone.